Okay, boys and girls, are you ready for Gooney Bird Green?
Yeah.
All right. Hi, Easton. Hi, Alexis. Okay. Hi, Easton. Hey, Alexis. Okay, so boys and girls, we are going to begin chapter 3 of Gooney Bird Green and All Her Charms. Who can tell me something that happened in chapter 2 that you remember? It's chapter 2, not chapter 1. We talked about it yesterday. Micah, something that happened in chapter 2.
The skeleton.
Oh, the skeleton arrived. Okay. What else, Emma? Gooney Bird's great uncle arrived in the classroom. Okay. What else? Bruin?
The skeleton had like clean teeth.
The skeleton's teeth were clean. He must have flossed. That's what the boys and girls said, or Miss Pigeon, or somebody said that he must have been a flosser when he was alive. Okay, what else, Easton?
Gooney Bird, Green uncle was a doctor.
Oh, Gooney Bird's great uncle Walter is a doctor. He is a professor of, what does he teach? Human anatomy. Okay. All right. What else, Michelle?
They found a place where to put the skeleton.
They found a place where to keep the skeleton while they were learning about it.
Yeah, in the store.
Okay. All right, Bella.
The same thing that Emma said.
Okay. Well, don't repeat what someone else said. Sabella. The principal did come in. He was curious, wasn't he? He wanted to know what was going on. Okay, Daxton.
That they named them Bonnie's.
Napoleon Bonaparte. Okay. They named the skeleton Napoleon, not Bonaparte, but Bonaparte. Okay, they're doing a little play on words in Napoleon Bonaparte's name. All right, what else, Calvin?
They thought if they didn't have bones, they'd just be blobs.
Oh, yeah, they discovered that if they didn't have bones in their bodies, they would just be blobs. All right, now I want all of you boys and girls to remain seated while we are reading and not be up and moving around. All right, chapter 3 begins with, "Good morning, students," Mr. Leroy said on the intercom the next day after the bell rang and school had begun. "We have some announcements and then a special treat this morning." "I bet he's going to tell about Napoleon," Barry said. "The other grades are going to be so jealous." "Shh," said Miss Pigeon. "Pay attention." "First of all, good news," Mr. Leroy announced. "Bruno is home from the hospital and he's going to be fine." Everyone cheered. Bruno was the school's dog, a huge Newfoundland that belonged to Mr. Ferrillo, the school custodian. He slept most of the time, and everyone was accustomed to walking around in a snoring pile of black fur. But poor Bruno, last week he had fallen asleep beside the rear wheel of one of the school buses. His tail got run over. "Bruno will be back in school tomorrow, and we'll all be happy to see him," Mr. Leroy said. "No dog treats, though, please, and no lunch scraps. The vet said that Bruno is a little overweight. I think some of you have been giving him your sandwiches at lunchtime." "Not the bread," Nicholas said in a loud whisper. "I just gave him the bologna." Shh. Pay attention to Mr. Leroy. Miss Pigeon put her finger to her lips. "Next, remind your parents, bake sale at lunchtime next Tuesday. We're all hoping that someone's mom will make those delicious lemon squares again. The proceeds will go toward new music for the school band, and our music director, Mr. Bornstein, says thank you in advance." "Now, he's going to say something about Napoleon, I bet," Malcolm said. "Shh." But he didn't. Instead, Mr. Leroy said, "Finally, our special treat this morning, Lilith Brahahu." Oh, that's a name. "Lilith Brahahu is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Lilith's mother and father have just officially become American citizens." Everyone clapped. They all liked the quiet 4th grade girl who had come with her parents from Ethiopia last year. The children stood beside their desks and repeated the pledge with Lilith, who said the words proudly, but sounded a little nervous over the intercom. Thank you, Lilith, and have a good day, everybody, Mr. Leroy said, as he did every morning, and the speaker fell silent. I bet Napoleon, his feelings are hurt, Beanie said. He didn't even get a mention. They all looked sympathetically at the skeleton. I'm starting to have an idea, Gooney Bird announced. What sort of idea, Mrs. Pigeon asked. They all knew that Gooney Bird's ideas were always good ones. About how we can make Napoleon famous in our school, but also it will be educational and it won't be dangerous or anything. Sounds terrific, Mrs. Pigeon said. Ready to tell us about it? Not quite. My brain is still at work. Fair enough. And actually, class, I was going to start our study of the human body with exactly that. With what? The children announced. The brain, Mrs. Pigeon announced. Kiko raised her hand, and Mrs. Pigeon said, Yes, Kiko. Napoleon doesn't have a brain, Kiko said sadly in her little voice. He did have one, Fairy said. Yes, he certainly did. And what protected it? Mrs. Pigeon asked her. Used her pointer and pointed to the chart, where the outlined head showed a wrinkled, pinkish brain. Then she pointed to Napoleon's head. Skull! Yes. All the children called. Gooney Bird reached into her desk and pulled out her bracelet. She held it up so that they could all see the small silver skull. Mrs. Pigeon, Malcolm was waving his hands high in the air. Guess what? What, Malcolm? Last summer, at Little League, the pitcher hit me in the head with the ball. But I had on a helmet, and under my helmet was my skull, and so it had lots of protection and my brain was okay. I'm glad to hear that, Malcolm. Now, not glad that you got hit by the ball, but glad that you didn't get hurt. Now, class. He did it on purpose. It was Jamie Mosley who was pitching, and he always hits people on purpose. My dad said that if he does it again. Mrs. Pigeon went to Malcolm and put her calm down arm on his shoulders. Malcolm's brain is at work right now, class, she said. He's remembering last summer, and it is our brain that stores our memories. Lilith used her brain to remember all the words to the Pledge of Allegiance, Felicia Ann said. And to say them, Mrs. Pigeon added, our brains control talking and what else? Seeing, smelling, hearing. Every child had a hand in the air. The brain is like the command central, Mrs. Pigeon said. Messages zoom around the brain cells faster than we can even imagine. There's Gooney Bird in her bracelet and her outfit for the day says Humpty Dumpty was pushed. Boys and girls, who is Humpty Dumpty?
Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty back together again.
Oh, so the fairy or the little nursery rhyme kind of sounds like he just accidentally fell off the wall, right? But Gooney Bird's shirt implies that someone pushed him. Bum, 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 bum.
And that was a lie.
Well, we don't know, do we? We weren't there when Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall. We just know he fell. We don't know if he was pushed or if he's just clumsy.
He wasn't even real.
We don't know. And we have billions of brain cells. They're called neurons. They tell us if we're hungry or thirsty or if we hear an airplane. Our ears tell us that, Ben says. Mrs. Pigeon used her pointer and tapped on the left ear of the figure on the chart. Correct. Our ears take in the vibrations that cause the sound, and then the inner parts of our ear process the vibration and send them to the brain so that Command Central can decide what the sound is. An engine from a jet, or a mosquito, or a baby crying? Triplets all crying at once, Malcolm said, and he put his hands over his ears. And if the brain tells you it's a jet flying over, it also tells you to look up at the sky, said Nicholas. Right. But if the brain says mosquito zooming in, then Command Central tells you to slap it, Beanie said. The children all slapped at their own arms and necks. Right. The brain tells your muscles to move your arm into a slapping position. Never fast enough, Tricia said. Everyone laughed. Let's begin reading this chapter. Tyrone, will you read the first paragraph aloud? Mrs. Pigeon paused and looked at Gooney Bird. Gooney Bird, are you with us? Does Miss Huffman ever do that? I'll say someone's name. I'll say, are you with us?
Yes. Are you with
That's
us?
because I noticed that maybe you're not with us and you're not paying attention, so I'll give you the opportunity to do that. She says, Gooney Bird, are you with us? Or is your brain still working on its idea? Gooney Bird looked up. Nope, she said, my idea's all worked out. Tell us, all the second graders called. I will, she said, after we read about the brain. Go ahead with your turn, Tyrone. Is your brain making a rap? Tyrone grinned. Trying to, he admitted, but I always tell it to stop when we're working on serious stuff. Well, that's probably a good thing, right? That your brain tells you maybe your brain tells you maybe when you should do things and when you shouldn't do things, right? Because there are appropriate times to do certain things or not to do certain things, right? So you need to listen to your brain because it's going to help. Oh, it will help you out if you will listen to it. And I lost my place, so I have to find it.
Did you actually lose your phone?
I actually did.
You gotta use a pointer finger.
Oh, he stood and began to read aloud as the other children followed the words in the book. They took turns. Tyrone stood beside his desk and read about how important the brain was and how it never stopped working, and not even when you were asleep. I think it makes dreams, Felicia Ann whispered. And nightmares, said Kiko nervously. Yes, nightmares too. Oh dear, said Kiko. Why don't you go next, Kiko, Mrs. Pigeon suggested. So Kiko stood and read about how the eyes are connected to the brain, and the brain explains to us what we are seeing. Then Malcolm read to the class the paragraph about hearing. He still wanted to tell the class about the noise the triples and his family made. All that screaming, Malcolm described, came in through your ears as vibrations, and if there were too many vibrations and therefore too much noise, the people whose brain was hearing it might get a terrible headache. My mom always has a headache, he said, but sometimes those babies are laughing, Malcolm, Mrs. Pigeon pointed out. Does your mom have a headache then? Well, no, Malcolm admitted. She starts laughing with them. We all do. One by one, the children stood and read aloud about the many things that the brain can do. When Chelsea read about the sense of smell, they held up different things that had different smells. An eraser, they sniffed an eraser. It has a certain smell to it. A jar of paste. Did y'all smell the glue yesterday when we were doing decoupage? No? Oh, they also smelled an open marking pen and an orange from Ben's lunch. They read about taste. Michelle? The brain has to work hard, Barry said, and it has to remember everything, Chelsea pointed out. It has to memorize. It's how we learn, isn't it? Boys and girls, are there any things we learn that you memorize every week? What are some things we memorize, use our brains to memorize every week? Levi?
Spelling words.
Spelling words. Every week we memorize those, don't we? What else do we memorize? Madeline?
How to read.
How to read. What else, Michelle?
Minuses and pluses.
Oh, those math facts, we memorize those. What's something else we memorize, Emma? Time multiplication. Yeah, we haven't worked on that too much. We've done it a little bit, though, haven't we? What else, Easton? Sight words. Good job. So there are some things that we memorize in our class, too. It's how we learn, isn't it, Mrs. Pigeon? With our brains, Tyrone said. His foot began to tap a little beat and snap his fingers, one in one hand and then in the other. You know, Tyrone's the one that likes to rap, right? Mrs. Pigeon started to laugh a little. Tyrone, I can tell that your brain is at work. You have a rap coming on, don't you? He nodded with a grin. Okay, let's hear it, she said. Tyrone stood, snapped his fingers, and wiggled his hips and chanted. Oh, stuffing his filled up don't cause no pain, 'cause that be the job of the Mr. Brain. Oh, I messed that up. Stuffing it full don't cause no pain, 'cause that be the job of Mr. Brain. Let me hear it, he called to the class. Mr. Brain, they all chanted. Tyrone twirled in a circle and began his verse. That noise you hear? Is it a car or a train? Who knows the difference? He cupped his ears with his hands as if to listen. Mr. Brain, you eat fried clams or you eat chow mein? Tyrone twirled again and made an eating motion as if he were lifting a fork to his mouth. Who knows the difference? Boys and girls said. Mr. Brain. Tyrone bowed and they all applauded. I got more, he said, but I'll save it. Save it in your brain, Gooney Bird said. And my brain's ready now with an idea. The class was silent, waiting. We need to take Napoleon traveling, said Gooney Bird. So that the other classes can meet him and learn about him. Traveling? Chelsea said. How can he travel? Gooney Bird pointed out the small wheels that allowed Napoleon's stand to move. We roll him to his destination, she explained. Then we'll lift him down and put him in place. Remember, Uncle Walter said we could sit him in a chair if we were careful. What place? Where are we taking him? Barry asked. You look worried, Barry, Gooney Bird said. But look at Napoleon. He's not worried at all. It was true. He was smiling.
Was he actually smiling?
It's a skeleton. I mean, he doesn't have his skin covering his teeth, so he's always smiling, right? Okay, it was true. He's smiling, Kiko said. All of the children stared at Napoleon's head. They made big smiles, showing their teeth. Let me see your big smiles. Yeah. As for where we're taking him, we've been studying his brain, so we need to show him using his brain. Where would be a place in this school where all the children use their brain?
The library.
Mrs. Pigeon smiled. I know, she said. The library, of course, she added. I hope you all use your brains everywhere, but I bet anything the library is what Gooney Bird has in mind. Gooney Bird nodded. Gooney Bird, Mrs. Pigeon went on, I think you should go consult with Mrs. Clancy to be sure it's all right with her. Gooney Bird was already at her cubby looking for the hat that she always wore when she paid a call on someone important. And Mrs. Clancy, the school librarian, was certainly important. While I'm gone, Gooney Bird suggested, maybe you could think about how Napoleon should be dressed in a brain-using outfit for our visit to the library. She adjusted the flower hat over her red hair, left the classroom, and disappeared down the hall. Dressed? Mrs. Pigeon said, turning to the class. Brain-using outfit? Oh, dear. What kind of brain-using outfit do you think they might come up with?
Miss Hudson, I got it right.
What kind of brain-using outfit do you think they may come up with, Levi?
Brain?
A brain-using outfit, like clothing?
Like a big brain.
Emma?
Brain that you use it.
Attach some clay to him? Okay. Now, cover him up? Okay. All right. Well, I think we'll find out. Daxton?
Maybe if they had a toy brain, they could put it in his...
A toy brain, they could put it in his skull?
Yeah.
I don't know. Darla?
A skeleton?
Well, he is a skeleton.
Yeah.
How are they going to dress him in a brain-using outfit? We will find out. We will find out in chapter 4. We don't know yet. But we're going to tell our friends at home goodbye.
Bye.